Good afternoon, 6th period class. We are going to be talking today about functions. We've got drawn up there a function machine that we're going to be discussing. I'm recording a video today, so if you are not allowed, if your image is not allowed to be on video camera, please do not cross in front of the camera while it's recording. Also, if you don't want your voice on camera, kind of just stay out of discussion. Don't discuss real loudly. Just mouth your answers to me. If anybody is sitting at a place where you think that you may get captured on video and you don't want to be on video, you need to move quick. We have so many students who are out sick or who maybe got in trouble and won't be with us for a day or two, that I wanted to do a video recording so that students can access what we're doing in class outside of class. So I want you to participate. If you're thinking of a question, please be sure you ask it, because whoever's watching this at home will not be able to ask a question while we're in our actual class. So they may be thinking the same thing you are, and I invite you to ask questions. Now I'm going to try to talk a little bit louder. I don't have an external mic on the camera, so it makes the folks at home hard to hear what I'm saying. So if I'm talking at a louder volume than usual, that's the reason. Okay? First off, good? Okay, our learning target for today is I can complete function tables. Now I've got drawn up here an illustration of a function machine. Now last week when I was out, I had drawn a function machine for you, and it had a pig going in, and when the pig goes in to the meat processing plant, he comes out bacon or sometimes some other pork product. Now I had a teacher, and this is going to be kind of gross, and some of you may want to go throw up after this, but he was not from around here. He grew up in Arkansas or somewhere. I don't remember where he said he grew up. But he said the big thing to do after school was a bunch of boys would get together and go down to the river and watch the meat packing plant, watch through the window what they were doing at the meat packing plant. And he said it didn't matter what they did at the end of the day. Whatever meat parts, whatever was laying around, they swept it all up off the floor, off the counters, whatever, and they put it in their function machine, and whatever went in came out bologna.
That's cool.
That is pretty cool.
It's kind of gross. Some of you may not ever eat bologna again as long as you live. But it was kind of factual for the time. It's not that way anymore. There's too many FDA regulations and all of that. But I told you that story to tell you whatever you put in the function machine, the input is your domain. Your input is your domain. Now we've already talked about domain and range. Your output is your range. Now the difference in what we're doing today and what we've previously done is you are going to be choosing the values that you want for your domain. It's almost like going to Burger King. You have it your way. Yeah. Okay? So what I want to do is I want to set up a function table. So make sure you get this in your notes. So we're going to have our x coordinate. Then we're going to have our rule. Which in this case is f of x equals 15x. And then you're going to have the f of x. Now previously, in ordered pairs, what you had was x and y. F of x is the same thing as y. It means exactly the same thing. But now, when we're talking functions, we're talking one thing being related to something else. One thing is a function function of something else, okay? Bacon is a function of the pig. Bologna was a function of whatever they had left at the meat processing plant. Okay? Now, previously, in my previous classes, we were talking about functions as well, even in my algebra classes. And we had an example in algebra today where we were trying to figure out which calling card company gave us the best deal. Okay? The charge, or the cost of however much they were going to have to pay, is a function of the number of minutes used, right? The cost has to do with the amount of minutes you used and the rate for that amount of minutes. Okay? So I want you to think about that function notation is still like saying x and y, but now we're x and f of x. Okay? Now, when you are picking numbers for your domain, you want to pick the numbers. I've always said this, and it always makes sense to people. You pick the numbers like you pick your nose. Ooh, it's gross math today, right? Do you schedule an appointment to pick your nose? No. No. You pick randomly. You're going to pick your numbers randomly, okay? And you want something small. When you're picking, you don't want to get something big out. It's gross, right? So if I pick something big and it gives me a big function, that means my graph is going to be big and nasty. So keep your numbers small and close to 0. Now I'm going to pick several numbers here. And I'm going to start with good old -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Now, when we're doing our function tables in just a few minutes, you won't have to pick this many numbers. You'll be picking a smaller amount of numbers. And I did not write range up here. And here is our rule. Now, simply what this means is that we are going to substitute a value for x. Just like the substitution property that we've used before, replace x with -2. All this means is a function of -2, the function, the range, when I'm replacing -2 for x, is 15 times -2, and that is -30. Okay, I've got an example I can give you. There was some dude at Walmart last night, and he was hustling knife things, and he made 2 or 3 announcements. If you came over to his counter, that he would you would get a free prize if you stood around and you listened to. You heard him? You heard it too?
No, my dad was.
Well, here's what happens. So, and I want you to think about the function this way. So his product, let's say it was $15 per item. So if 2 people walk away, he's lost how much money?
$30.
$30. Yep. All right, if one person walks away,
15.
how much money has he lost?
15.
Okay? Now, if no people walk away, then he doesn't lose anything or he doesn't gain. Yeah. If nobody walks away, he doesn't lose or he doesn't gain. So it's going to be at 0. When he starts to gain is if one person buys. So what's 15 times 1?
15.
And if 2 people buys,
30.
oops, wrong way. So his profit or his cost depends on how much money or how many people buy. His profit depends on how many people buys whatever knife it was he was trying to sell last night. Okay? Does that kind of make sense of why now we're switching and using function notation? Because one thing is a function of something else. You growing is a function of your nutrition. If you grow taller, you're going to eat right. Or it could be your growth is a function of your genetic factor. Is your mom tall? Is your dad tall? So something is going to be a function of something else, okay? Does this make sense? The function machine, function table? Now, let's talk about domain and range just a little bit more. Now, you have picked your own domain, just like you pick your nose. I know.
So I'm gonna learn it. I'm gonna be on test. Time to pick my nose.
Yep, I gotta pick my nose for this test. Okay, so what is my domain? What numbers did I pick?
-2, -1, 0, 1, 2.
Okay. What numbers did I get for my range? What is my output?
-15, 0, 15.
Is it making sense?
Yes.
It's pretty easy. This is pretty easy. This is kind of leading you into something else. Now, again, we're going to be graphing these functions before long, okay? We're going to be graphing our functions. So get ready in the next few days. You're going to need some graph paper. So make sure you've got some. If you don't, I might be able to help you out with a piece or two. Okay? Now, what I'm going to do is I want to make sure that you understand function notation. Before I go on and give you a function table of your own to do, I want to give you a problem. What if I ask you, find f of -6? What is wrong? What's going on? Falling asleep? Well, wake up.
I ain't falling asleep.
I'm going to put the camera on you. I'm wide awake. 3x plus 4. Okay, now I'm going to give y'all about 45 seconds to see if you can figure out that problem. 45 seconds. Come on, time's ticking. Tell me what I do.
You
Hang on to
you
it.
put -6 in with x, and then you do 3 times -6 plus 4.
Okay, I put -6 in for x, and then I do 3 times -6 plus 4, okay? So tell me what I get.
Negative.
What's this?
Negative
Negative
18.
plus 4.
Negative 14.
Negative 22.
Negative 42.
Negative 14.
Negative 4. Negative.
Alright, I was hearing,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, those integer rows. I was hearing some -22s. Make sure you've got those integer rules down pat. You've got to know them. Different signs subtract, okay? Make sure you know that. Make sure you got it. You gotta get it good. Love triangle don't apply here. The row, your boat does.
What's the row?
Same
Signs
signs
add and keep, different signs subtract.
Keep the sign of the larger number, then it will be exact. Okay, so make sure you understand, if I just give you a function and I want to know the value of that function, or I want you to evaluate at -6, that you are able to do that, okay? Now then, I'm going to give you the rule. And I want you to choose 4. Let me see how do I want to word this. Choose 4 values for the domain. And find the range. And I want you to use a function table to do this. I want you to use a function table, and your function rule is f of x equals 4x minus 1.
We'll make up our own four numbers.
Yep, I want you to do your own four numbers. You can pick them small, like I did. Pick them small.
I like the big ones.
If you like the big ones, just keep in mind, the bigger the number here,
Bigger than over there.
the bigger the number may be here. And you may have a humongous graph when we start graphing these. So try to keep them small and close to 0. I'm going to give you about a minute and a half, and I'm going to keep the video rolling while you're working. The video rolling. Rolling, rolling, rolling. Get that table rolling. I'm going to zoom in so whoever's working at home can see the problem a little better.
I'm done.
Good. Hang on to it. Okay, so what's the first thing that I need to do if I'm going to do a function table? Yes, ma'am.
Write down the function table.
Write down the function table. Tell me how.
You do x, and then the f(x) equals, and then whatever number x. And then f times x.
F of x. This is red. F of x. F stands for function of x, okay? So let's get some values. Give me a value. Arlene. 2? Okay? 2. So what do I do with that 2 once I've got my value?
Your grandfather sure checked you out, so after this period. After this period.
Alright. Bye, Booty.
So what do I do with the 2? Yes.
Replace x with 2.
Replace x with 2. And what do I do now?
Multiply.
Multiply
4 and 2.
4, and what do I get when I multiply 4 and 2?
Hey, you gotta subtract 1.
And what is 8 minus 1?
7.
Okay. So for my function evaluated at 2 gives me 7. Okay, so pick another number, Haley. 3. Oops. So what do I do with the 3?
You replace x with 3.
That's 11.
How'd you get 11?
Because 4 times 3 is 12, and then minus 1 is 11.
Good. Okay, I need a negative number.
Negative
Negative 3.
Negative 3, negative 2, negative 3, and negative 2. Okay, so what do I do with negative 3?
You replace x with negative 3.
Do you have to have a negative number?
It's always good to have a negative number. Now, sometimes it's not reasonable. Like when we were pretending. Now, we all know that the guy's only interested in his profit, so it might not be reasonable when you're talking about money to choose negative numbers. May not always be reasonable. Okay? So 4 times negative 3 is?
Negative 12.
Negative 12 minus 1 is?
Negative 13.
Negative 13, good. Good job on the integer rules. Make sure you got the same signs. Add and keep. Guys in the back, are y'all paying attention? All right. So we've got f of -2 is our last. Okay, tell me what to do here.
You'll do 4 times -2
Mm-hmm.
minus 1.
And that is?
Negative 8.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be minus 1 equals -9.
Okay. Now we've done as directed. I want you to state the domain and range of this function. What is my domain? X. What about X?
2 through -3 and -2.
Now, I'm not real good at making the braces, but when you're talking about a set of numbers, you need to put them in the braces, okay? A set notation, or building you up to that. What about my range?
The middle.
Is the range the middle stuff?
7, 11, -13, -9.
So we got 7, 11, -13, and -9.
Oh, right. I thought you meant rule.
Range, yep, range. Okay, now, normally, how I learned to do this domain and range stuff is I learned listing them in numeric order, from least to greatest. So if I listed my domain in numeric order from least to greatest, what would I have in my domain?
-2, 3.
-2,
-3. Oh, no, -3.
-3, -2, 2, and then 3. What about my range? How would it change?
-13, -9, 7.
Correct. So if I listed them in numeric order, for the range, I'd have -13, -9, 7, and then 11, okay? Let's look at a real world problem. Let's see how we can make this work in a real world problem for us. What is a hobby that you all like? Or something that
Football.
Football, okay. So you're gonna go to a football camp, okay?
Quarterback.
Football is one word. Come in.
Miss Katie wants to know if she can borrow some calculators.
Yes, if, Ty, can you get the calculators for her, please? Okay, they charge a flat fee of $75 plus, let's see how much per lesson you're going to let them charge. $8 per lesson. Okay? I don't know anything about football camps, so we're just changing up the problem in here to make it a little bit more interesting to you.
Yeah, quarterback can't cost like 75.
Alright, so we're going to say that our cost for this football camp training, whatever, is a function of the number of lessons, and we are going to write C of L. And I want us to write our rule based on the given information. Okay, so I want you to think on that a minute. Our cost of the lesson is what? Look at your information.
75
75.
times L.
Plus 8.
Plus
Per lesson. Plus
8
8L.
L plus 8 per lesson, okay? So that's our function rule. So let's say that the expert meets with your parents and the expert decides that you need 13 lessons.
These is one
That's
side.
what it's.
Then L would be 13.
Okay, good. So we're going to evaluate this function, C of L, or C of 13, equals $75 plus $8 times the 13 lessons. So real quick,
179.
how did you get it?
Added 75 to 8 times 13, and
What's 8 times 13?
104.
And you get that the cost of the lessons was how much? $179. So your answer would be, the cost of the lessons would be $179. The cost is $179 for 13 lessons. Making sense? Some of you are trying to snooze. I'm sorry, I'm boring.
That actually.
no, I just know how to do it now, and it's a little less exciting that you're not saying boogers.
Oh, sorry.
I think that dude just
I'd
wants
rather
some money.
boogers not be in that, but you know,
Could have.
whatever.
Here's what I want you to do. Now, you may have done these problems last week, but I haven't seen them. So here's what I want. On page 302, I want you to try only 6 problems for me. I want you to try problems 1 through 6. Okay? I want you trying problems 1 through 6. I will project them on the board. I want to get a snapshot of these type problems and make sure that you understand what we're doing with these before we go on to graphing some problems similar to this, okay? That's it. Thanks so much, and I will see you back in class soon. Those of you who are sick, we'll see you back soon.
Bye.
I hope you learned.
Have fun learning.
Don't eat your bull butt.